All right. Hello. Welcome to Small Business CRE. One of the most common phrases I get from small business owners is they say, well, I don't want to throw away my money on rent each month. I'm just flushing it down the drain. And while I get the feeling behind that, that is just simply an oversimplification of what that decision actually looks like. And so that's what we're talking about is the decision of should you lease or should you buy commercial space for your business to operate out of? Let's get into it. First off, why should you even listen to me? My name is Dan Logan. I am a commercial real estate agent working in my own market in the Midwest. I've helped over 100 small business owners with this very question. And so what I'm talking about today is based on real world experience and not just theory. I've helped auto detailers, massage therapists, mechanics, insurance companies, everything in between, all types of small businesses. And so that's what this information is based on. So the four things we're going to talk about today, as far as making a decision, leasing or buying, first off, is flexibility and startup costs. Second is the real cost comparison when you look at it month to month. You might be surprised with that one. Third is just simply availability and opportunity. And then finally is control and responsibility. So diving right into it. Number one, for just to give you the TLDR version, honestly, and you can just click out the video. For most new small business owners, leasing makes the most sense. A lot of people, they start this new business and they get excited and they want to go buy a building to operate out of. And that's just a lot more than what they should start out with. But if you're a new business, you're just starting out, maybe you're only a year or two in, or maybe you've been operating out of your house or your garage, and now you're ready for real commercial space. Leasing is generally the best way to go about it. And again, a lot of people feel like they're throwing away money on rent. But, and buying, of course, isn't bad. And buying is the ideal scenario, but it's just not always realistic. And when you're starting out as a new business, the flexibility really matters when your business is in that early stage. And the big thing there is just the speed with that. If you're looking at leasing a space, there's going to be more options in the market, so you can probably find something sooner. You're going to have much lower startup costs. We'll get into that here in a second. Buying something is just going to take longer. Even if you find the perfect building, going under contract and going through that process, it's going to be a minimum of 60 days, probably longer. And if you're doing SBA, that's Small Business Administration financing, which is the 10% down payment, that's going to take months just to get through the financing piece. Whereas if you're looking at leasing something, you can probably get through a lease. If everyone's going quickly, you can get through a lease within a few weeks. And so you can just get up and running so much faster. And then really it is just the flexibility. For a new business, you don't know what's going to happen, 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years. That's all a very long time. And if you're leasing a spot, you can leave it once your lease terms up. So if you have a 2-year lease, after 2 years, you can close down the business, you can leave, you can move to a different spot. Whereas if you buy a building, you commit to a building, and then you figure out it doesn't work for you, if you're trying to resell a building after just a year or two of being in it, you're going to lose money on it. It's not going to increase in value most likely during that time. So you'll be losing money. So that flexibility and that speed is just really helpful when you're looking at leasing space versus buying. Back to the upfront costs. So leasing is really just 1 month's security deposit, whereas buying, you're looking at a 10 to 20% down payment. 10% is if you're going the SBA route, 20% is conventional financing. Of course, these are minimum amounts. So if you're looking at a $500,000 building to buy, that's a $50,000 to $100,000 down payment that you need to use upfront. That's operating capital that could be going towards your business instead. And so that upfront cost, leasing, just so much lower and generally makes more sense. This is assuming that you'll have the same costs either way if you're doing renovations, build outs, equipment, stuff like that. All right. Second reason is the monthly payment. I think this is the most important one. A lot of people, they'll look at, okay, here's the rent for this space, and here's a comparable building I could buy. And oftentimes the rent amount looks a lot higher than what your mortgage payment would be. If you go and you plug that property into a mortgage calculator, the monthly mortgage amount will look lower, or it will be lower than the rent. But let's run some actual numbers on that. Let's say you're leasing a shop space that is 4,000 square feet and the rent is $12 a square foot gross. So that's 4,000 a month, plus you'll pay utilities, but that's the same as owning a building anyway. So 4,000 a month, and yeah, you'll have your standard, annual escalations, probably around 3%. But with this, you won't have any major repair responsibilities if you're renting. And so with this, you'll have a pretty stable understanding of what your occupancy costs are going to be for the next 3 to 5 years, or however long you lease that for. By the way, If you want to make sure you have a clear understanding of what your monthly rent will be, and you don't get surprised once you sign that lease, take a look at my free PDF. It's in the link below. Top 5 leasing mistakes small business owners make. Now let's compare that to, if I get my thing to work. Okay, let's say that you are looking at buying, let's say, an equivalent building, and it's going to be $500,000. Plug that into a mortgage calculator, and I'm just using SBA loan, 10% down, 8% interest, and a 25-year amortization period. Just rough numbers here. Your monthly mortgage amount with that is going to be just about $3,500. And the benefit here, and what gets people excited, is of that amount, 450 of it, roughly, is going to principal. So you're building up equity each time you make that payment. So of course, it's awesome. And this does look better on paper than leasing. Same building, we're pretending, $3,500 a month, and part of you keep, versus $4,000 a month and you're renting. Seems like a clear choice. But what we're forgetting about is if you own that building, you are responsible for these additional expenses. So your property taxes, your insurance, those are going to probably each be $5,000 to $7,500 a year. And then you're going to have your repairs and maintenance on the building, which a conservative estimate, and these are just rough numbers, but plan on 1% to 2% of the building value each year. And this is going to fluctuate a whole lot because you could have water heaters, parking lot replacements, a roof, things like that. And it's going to really change a lot year to year. And so once you add all that in, that's an additional averaged out $2,000 a month that you're paying when you own that building between the taxes, the insurance, the maintenance. So that turns what looked like only $3,500 a month into $5,500. And so now suddenly your monthly cost actually is higher for owning versus renting. And it doesn't matter that you're getting some equity built up. It's still not equal. You're paying more to own than you are to rent in this scenario. All right, section 3, and this is just a practical one, is in the majority of markets, there's just more space available for lease than there is for purchase. In my market, that's definitely the case. And I think most of the markets around the country in the Midwest are like that. More people are just trying to lease properties than they want to sell properties. So if you're really set on buying a building, you could be stuck waiting months or even years for that right building to come along. Whereas there might be several lease options that are available at that time. And then additionally, it depends what type of building you need for your business, what kind of business you have. But if you're looking for like high-end class A or retail or high traffic locations, on major streets, those are going to almost all be just for lease. Those properties are generally owned by larger investment groups, so they're just leasing them. So those are rarely available for sale. So if you're a retail or a restaurant type of business and you need that traffic, that visibility, you're really going to be looking at leasing versus buying. And this is honestly where I think it's a great strategy for newer business owners. You just lease now and you can buy later once the right property comes available. And also once your business is more stable. Again, I think buying is great for your business. It's the ideal scenario is for your business to be operating out of a building that you own. So essentially you're paying yourself rent. Like that's the ideal scenario. But for a new business and you don't quite know, what to expect the next few years, leasing is just so much easier to start out. And then towards the end of that lease, you can be watching for a building to come available that you want. But then you're not at least waiting. You're not holding your business up, waiting for the right thing to come along for sale. Get into something, lease it for a while, and then go and buy something you can own later. All right, lastly, ownership gives you control, but it also gives you responsibility. You're responsible for anything that goes wrong with that building. Whereas if you're a tenant, the landlord is generally responsible. So when you own a building, yes, you do have the freedom to modify it and you can customize the building without asking permission. That's great. Of course, subject to, zoning and approvals and permitting with the city. And again, that's your responsibility. You have to talk to the city and deal with all that. And then when anything goes wrong, the roof, the parking lot, the HVAC system, that's all on you. And that's an expense for you. And it's a hassle for you. It's a headache. It takes you away from your business. Versus leasing. Most major repairs are going to be the landlord. The landlord has to fix it. You can just focus on running your business and not playing the real estate game. And then also, what your monthly costs will be each month, year after year. Whereas if you own the building, you could be hit with big repair costs, just throw you off. So quick recap, leasing is the better option when it comes to speed and flexibility and lower startup costs. Ownership often costs actually more than you would think per month. Don't just look at what the mortgage calculator says. Consider your property taxes, your insurance, and your repairs and maintenance as well. And also, if you're just waiting for that perfect building to come along for sale, it might not happen. And the best locations usually are only available for lease, and it's very rare to find them for sale. And with owning a building, that control comes with responsibility. You have to decide which one you want. Overall, just kind of the big message here we should go home with is you're a small business owner. You should not let real estate dictate your business or distract you from your business. Do what you do best, operate your business, and don't let owning real estate distract you from it. You should be realistic what your space needs are, especially if you're a new business owner, and know that if they're going to change over the next 3 to 5 years, you want that flexibility of leasing versus owning. And then someday when you're more stable, then go find a building to own and be your forever home for your business. I hope that was helpful. If you want help deciding what's right for your business and just some things to be aware of when you're looking at leasing, again, take a look at my free PDF down below. Top 5 mistakes I've seen small business owners make when they're leasing commercial real estate. I appreciate it. Subscribe for more.